Good afternoon, class. How are you? We're looking at this is criminology. We'll take a look at chapter one. Chapter one is entitled Crime and Criminology. So, first of all, we'll take a look at how do we actually define criminology. When we're looking at defining it, it can be defined as the scientific approach to studying criminal behavior. Okay. Now, there are some important areas of interest that we could focus on when we're looking at criminology. So, one thing for sure, we'll look at how crime is a social phenomenon. We'll also look at the processes of making laws. We'll look at the process of the breaking of laws as well as the reacting toward the breaking of the law, and then we'll look at the development of some principles. So, we said the name of this chapter was Crime and Criminology. However, you guys are criminal justice students, right? And so we need to know the distinct difference between criminology and criminal justice. There are three distinct differences between the two. When looking at criminology, criminology focuses on explaining the origins of crime. It also looks in it to explain the extent and the nature of crime in society. However, when we're looking at criminal justice, and you guys should know this because this is what your degree is going to be in, criminal justice focuses on the study of the agencies of social control. And we talk about the agencies of social control. This is when we're talking about the three major components, which would be police, courts, and corrections, right? Now, when we're looking at criminology, your textbook also talks about criminology as well as deviant behavior. Okay. When we talk about deviant behavior can be different from an actual crime, right? And sometimes they can actually be the same. So we look at looking at deviant behavior, this is going to be any type of behavior that departs from any type of social norms, not only social norms, but values and beliefs. But it might not necessarily be a crime. Okay. Now, let's look at the definition of a crime. We talk about a crime, we're talking about this is an act that is deemed as socially harmful or even dangerous, but is specifically defined, prohibited, and punished under criminal law, right? So if you have a behavior that's not specifically defined, if it's not prohibited and it's not punished under criminal law, then it's not considered to be a crime, okay? So, what exactly do criminologists do? Okay, criminologists basically they devote a lot of their time to studying crime, but not only studying crime, they also devote a lot of their time to studying criminal behavior. Many criminologists come from very, very diverse fields. Some within criminal justice, some are not, right? And so this is why they're able to get so much information because you have individuals who do come from a diverse background. Now, what when we talk about what they do, we're going to go more in depth about what they do. Criminologists actually look at crime statistics, they look at crime measurement, they devise accurate methods of collecting crime data, right? So we start saying 50% of Americans haven't been a victim of crime and 20% have engaged in theft or what have you. Criminologists are going to be the people who's trying to make sure that they get the accurate information as far as statistical information is concerned. They also determine what are the trends of criminal activity. So right before the pandemic, New Orleans had a trend with individuals, juveniles breaking into cars. That's a trend. That's something that's going on now. You look back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that might not have been going on, but that's something that's actually trending. They also try and determine who commits crime and where. Do we have more crime in the north? Do we have more crime in the west, in the east? We also say, where is it one neighborhood as opposed to another neighborhood? Is it during certain times of the day? Do people commit more crimes during the day or during the night? do they commit more crime on a Wednesday as opposed to a Sunday? So this is the types of things that criminologists actually do. And not only do they do all that, but they take all this information, and these individuals can also design crime prevention programs. And not only design these programs, but they want to try and look at their effectiveness, right? So to make sure these programs are actually going to be working. Okay. So when you see various programs around town that's geared towards let's say criminal activity or deterring that of criminal activity, you have a criminologist who is probably in the mix, right? That's a part of getting that program together. Okay. Now, what do criminologists do? Your textbook says in action. So what do they really do, right? They talk about theory, construction, and testing. We'll talk a lot about theory. The majority of this class, I say 80 to 90% of this class, we're going to focus on theories, right? And theories is just no more than a systematic set of interrelated statements or principles that explain some aspect of social life. And we'll go more in depth about that a little bit later. But for the most part, criminologists want to be able to verify social facts. They say that they can be tested by constructing hypotheses and then assessing those hypotheses by using empirical research, right? And so when I ask you, people, everybody basically has an idea of why they think crime occurs, right? Some people may say, oh, because of single parents. Some people may say education, poverty. There are a number of different reasons as to why people think criminal behavior occurs, right? And that's kind of going to be their theory. However, criminologists actually come up with hypotheses that support their theory. They also assess their hypothesis by using empirical research. Okay. Now, criminologists also look at the specific criminal types. They look at patterns of crime. They also, it says they do research on the links among the different types of crimes and criminals, known as crime typology. Right? There are certain people who would only engage in certain types of criminal behavior. Right? So I may steal, but I'm not going to be a murderer. Right? I may engage in embezzlement, but I'm not going to engage in rape. Okay. So there are certain crimes that individuals are going to engage in as opposed to others. Also, criminologists actually look at punishment. Okay. Criminologists are involved in creating effective crime policies. Not only are they involved in creating crime policies, but they develop methods of social control and the corrections and control of known criminal offenders. Okay. You also have some criminologists who are considered to focus more on the victim. Remember, I told you that criminologists come from very, very diverse backgrounds. So you may have individuals who focus a lot on victims and victimization, which is critically important, right? Because anytime there's a crime that occurs, there is a victim that's involved. So you talk about, they may look at measuring the nature and the extent of criminal victimization. They may also look at the calculating the cost of victimization, measuring the factors that increase the likelihood of one becoming a victim. There are some things that make people more likely to be a victim as opposed to other people. They're also going to study the victim's role in precipitating crime. Okay, when you talk about precipitating crime, we're saying, what role did this individual play in them actually becoming a victim? Okay. And they also design services for victims of crime. The last little part I'd like to talk about is what your assignment is on, and that's how criminologists actually view crime. There are going to be three major ways in which criminologists actually view crime. You have one called the consensus view. You have one called the conflict view, and you have the interactionist view. Okay. You have the consensus view, you have the conflict view, and you have the interactionist view. When we're talking about the consensus view says, according to the consensus, what is the consensus? That means the majority, right? Crimes are behaviors believed to be repugnant to all elements of society and they cause social harm, right? When we're looking at the conflict view says, okay, we're looking at the conflict view. The conflict view depicts society as a collection of Did we cut out? All right, I think we cut out, you guys. I apologize. So I'm gonna go over the consensus view again. The consensus view is going to be behaviors are believed to be repugnant or harmful to all elements of society and causes social harm, right? So what does that mean? That means the majority of individuals feel like, because that's what consensus means, majority, feel like these particular behaviors should be outlawed, right? Or they are considered to be harmful to society. And so therefore, we have deemed them as crimes. You look at the conflict view, it says the conflict view depicts a society as a collection of diverse groups who are in constant and continuing conflict, right? So this is where you have individuals who are from all elements of society, right? And this particular perspective says, we have rich people who think that certain things should be outlawed. We have poor people who think that certain things should be outlawed. And so it says basically this is where these diverse groups actually come from. And they're actually in a constant conflict, right? Over what should be outlawed. So, one way you can look at it is like the rich may say, we need to outlaw this or we need to outlaw that. And then you have poor people who say, no, we need to focus on these things right here, or we need to not give such stiff penalties on this particular action or behavior, right? And so they're constantly in conflict as to what is deemed to be harmful to society. And then the last one is going to be the interactionist view. The interactionist view holds that people, institutions, and events are viewed subjectively and labeled either good or bad or evil, your textbook says, according to the interpretation of the evaluator, right? So, according to how I see it as an individual, that would determine what is good or what is bad or what is actually evil, right? It's all going to be left up to the interpretation of the evaluator. So, I want you to basically become a criminologist for a moment and think about how you actually view crime. And I want you to select one of these views, either the consensus view, the conflict view, or the interactionist view. Okay. I'm actually going to stop here and we'll pick up when we return to class on Monday. You guys have a great day.